Bad clap. Hey, welcome back to Chicago 242, the series. This is episode 13, so if you'd like to watch the whole backlog, it's linked below, all 12 episodes. Today is going to be a different kind of episode. It's going to be very stripped down, just me talking to you about my Chicago race plan. Given the fact that it is race week, I don't want to spend a ton of energy making like these super crazy edits, so I'm sorry if this feels a bit boring. Feel free to not watch it if you don't want to. It's just going to be me explaining how I want to run my race, so hopefully that is interesting to you, and it might be a little controversial, so we'll see. Not going to make many cuts. Hopefully I haven't made any cuts yet. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to exclusively talk about the race start to finish. I'm not going to do any of like the pre-race nutrition or the gear that I'm using outside of my shoes. I'll talk about that and all those details. I'll do all that in my post-race breakdown video. That'll be super long. I'll break down the days leading up, the expo. I'm flying out my friend Cyrus to film all of that, so it should be really cool what that coverage is. But for now, I just want to chat about the course and my specific plans for actually racing. So to preface, and I'm also reading off my notes, so I'm sorry if you see me glance at that a ton. To preface, I'm attacking this race just much more aggressively than any other of my marathon races in the past. And I know it's going to ruffle some feathers with how I want to approach this one. I've tried to race every single marathon, the 9 that I've done, with the intention of negative splitting, meaning running the first half in a certain time and then running the second half even faster than that first half. So out of the 9 that I have run, I've only successfully negative split 2 times. And that was Chicago last fall with my 257, and then Carmel this past spring in 2023 with my 248. Chicago was a big negative split. I think it was 2.5 minutes, somewhere around there. And then Carmel was actually only a 20-second negative split. And the truth is, I'm not a pro runner. So at the end of the day, while my training on this channel and my races and all of the results are very public information, I have no one to prove my goals to except myself. So while I'd love for this race to be a negative split, I'm really going after what my fitness indicates leading into this race. So I'm fully expecting to actually even split or come really close to even splitting, which is kind of what Carmel was, honestly. We went through the half and I think 1:24:30, something like that, and then ended up negative splitting. I think it was around 20 or 30 seconds. So yeah, if that means I'm a bit above or below on my second half and just barely positive split or just barely negative split, honestly, that's where I'm going to be super happy, and that's kind of where the goal is. I just want to run a very even race based on what I'm capable of, based on what I've seen in my training, my tune-up race, the half marathon, all that good stuff. So, but this does not mean that I'm going to split the first half in some like insane time that I can't hold on to for the second half. I'm still going to race smart. You know, this is my 10th marathon. I've been running marathons for 6 years now. I've learned the hard way in those first 4 years, and I feel like I've finally understood what the race means and how to do it the past year and a half. And that's where I think it might be controversial, because there might be a lot of people listening that are like, you have to negative split it. Yes and no. I think when you start getting into these kinds of times where you're, placing in the top 1% of the field, where you're like, I have honestly the chance of going top 300 at Chicago, top 400. This is where you're kind of towing the line with what's possible physically based on your training and, your history. But I won't get too into that. I don't want to be too controversial. I'm not looking to get into an argument with anyone. So I want to race this race smart, and it doesn't mean that I'm going after something that's impossible. It's very possible to be going after what I'm going after here. The whole training series is obviously titled Chicago 242. So I set that goal when I ran Carmel, right after I ran Carmel, ran that 248, and I set the goal at 242 for, 6 months later. And that was a really scary goal at the time. But I'm not looking to change the title of this series because I think I can run faster than a 242. I am at that place now. Now looking at the Chicago weather, what it looks like it's going to be, from low to mid 40s Fahrenheit to 60, it looks like ideal, perfect race conditions with no rain. I want to challenge myself and really go well below 242 because I think I'm capable of it. And if I'm being honest with myself, if I were to run like a 2:41:45, yes, I might have met the goal of what the series is titled, but I know I'd walk away feeling dissatisfied. Just being honest, just being open. That's what I want to be on this channel. I don't want to lie about how I'm feeling. I don't want to set easy goals and smash them and then try to elevate myself, if that makes sense. I really want to be challenging myself because, like I said at the beginning, I have nothing to prove to anyone except myself. That's how I'm feeling about my running these days. So yeah, I said the weather looks amazing. So I just really want to capitalize on that weather if we end up having like a perfect day as far as temperature and conditions. And I really want to take a stab at it. I've been chatting with my good friend Sam Bland, who is running Chicago. He also ran Carmel and finished about, I think, a minute or minute and a half ahead of me at Carmel. I saw his back down the road the entire race, and I knew he was going to be running a bit faster than me. And I think in the back of my mind, I was hoping that I would catch him. I never got the opportunity to catch him, but we're right around the same fitness. We have a very similar A goal. We both want to go under 240 in this race, but we both want to be really aggressive and maybe go pretty far below 240. Nothing crazy, but yeah, through a series of personal mental battles and the strategy I want to do in the first half of this race, I think I want to go with him in the first half and work together, and hopefully work together most of the race like I did with Ethan in Carmel, if you remember that, who I found on Instagram. Shout out Ethan. Finally got to have a conversation with him and thank him. So let's break it down. As is the case for every marathon race, I'm not going to wreck myself in the first 2 to 3 miles. I definitely don't recommend doing that. Going out too fast, you burn too many matches in the beginning, you're going to pay for it in the end. So I'll be going out between 6 flat per mile to 6:04 per mile, in that range. That's 3:43 to 3:46 per kilometer. And if Sam and I stick together, we're looking to float right around 6 flat per mile or 3:43 a kilometer for the whole first half. This would place us anywhere at the halfway point from about 1:18:30, 1:18:40 to 1:19. That's the goal, to be in that 30-second window. 1:18:30 to 1:19. Now, if we successfully accomplish that kind of first half in the race, and then we even split, run the second half the same exact, we're looking at a finish time between 2:37 to 2:38. If you even split 1:18:30 2 times, you would run a 2:37. So really, that 2:37 to 2:38 window is really what I want to challenge myself with. If I feel like the effort is too much around the 8 to 10 mile mark, hovering around that 6 flat to just above 6 or 3:45 per K pace, I'll pull back until like 18 to 21 around that 10K left. I'll pull back so I can conserve some energy so I don't waste myself in the last part of the race. That's only if I feel like it's not comfortable on miles up to miles 8 through 10. So just being smart in the race and not burning too many matches before the halfway point. Chicago's super loud. The first half is covered from the sunlight most of the time with buildings and trees. And the whole first half is just super electric, whereas the west side and the south side in the second half is way more sparse with spectators and noise. Since that's the case, since it's going to be loud and electric, I really want to feed off the crowds and be aggressive in this section of the race, the first half, as it will inevitably get hard mile 14 and on, halfway on. But that's when I'm really hoping Sam and I are still together and can work together, pushing to maintain that 6 flat per mile pace, 3:43 per K. And I'm really looking at this in the way that's how I felt with Ethan back in Carmel. I don't know if I would have been in the same headspace in the second half of the race if I didn't have Ethan from halfway to mile 20. I got to a really dark place at mile 17 and 18 where it felt like the effort was becoming too hard. But he just kept encouraging me, like telling me that I had the fitness. And then, my friend Scotty and his girlfriend Brittany on the course were also reiterating that to me. You trained for this. You have the fitness. So I know to use that as a phrase for myself in the second half, but also being side by side with Sam, if we have the opportunity, would be really special as well. Because if we both feel that way, we can be telling each other that. Like, no, we're in this shape. We can maintain this. Keep going for as long as you can. So, gels. What I'll be doing nutrition-wise, fueling-wise throughout the actual race, I'll take one Morton 100 calf 20 to 30 minutes before the race starts. and then I'll rely on 5 gels throughout the course. And my plan is to take a gel every 4 miles. So mile marker 4, right around there, 8, 12, 16, 20. In this order, I want to do my Spring Energy Awesome Sauce first on mile 4, and then I'll do the Morton 100 Calf again, so another caffeinated one early, another Awesome Sauce, another, and then a Morton 100 regular, and then another Awesome Sauce. So alternating back and forth with the caffeinated ones early on to get the caffeine early, because I've heard later in the race a caffeinated gel is just not really going to help as much because your body won't have as much time to use the caffeine in the gel. So alternating. That's 6 gels throughout, 5 in the race, 1 before, and each gel will have 2 salt tabs taped to it with masking tape. I started doing this in the last few weeks of training. The first time I tried it, I just taped the salt tab to the gel, and I realized it was hard to pull the tape off of it. So the second time I made a pull tab. So I taped the tab to it and then made like a little loop tag to be able to pull the gel off. So I'll be putting 2 salt tabs with masking tape on each gel in case one of them disintegrates or I drop it or whatever. I have an extra one on there just in case. And then I'll probably keep, 5 of them in a Ziploc bag at the bottom of my pocket as well, just in case, they melt or whatever happens, just to have some. And then just rely on Gatorade throughout the course to get more electrolytes and more salt. But I'll also be running in my new Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. I ran in that shoe last year in Chicago. I'm running in it again, just a new version of it this year, the white and gold ones. These are the same shoes I ran my new half marathon PR in. I ran a 1:15:57 at the Hidden Gem half marathon in Flossmoor, and those felt incredible that day. And just to go back with fitness, that race was untapered, and that puts me at like under a 2:39 marathon. So again, I want to, with a taper, with the extra weeks I had after that marathon with training the last few weeks before taper, I really want to go after that, 2:38 or 2:37 to 2:38. So I'll be really topped off on liquids at the start. I'll make sure of that. I'm planning on doing a Morton 160 drink mix mixed with Element electrolytes the morning of. I love that combination. I've been trying it. I've done it a few times the past few days, and it sits well. I did that before my 13-mile run just yesterday morning around the second half of the course, which was incredible. It was super fun to run that with Sean, my buddy. Porta potty bros. But I'll be very topped off at the beginning, so I'll skip the first and maybe even the second aid stations with water and Gatorade. But then I'll start to partake in water and Gatorade each station after that and alternate. I usually like to do water at one station and Gatorade at the next one. And I might skip a few stations here and there if I don't feel like I need it at that moment. But I usually tend to go to every single station in the second half of the race. So miles 14 through 22 or 22 to 32K, they're all about survival and zoning out. You can't smell the finish line yet, and especially in Chicago, you're going through a lot of industrial stuff. You're going through a lot of empty spots. I mean, spectators are still here and there. It's a city, but it's not electric like it was in the first half. So it can be dark. It could be difficult. So it's really that time to zone out and just take it mile by mile. Everybody starts to string out. People start to slow down. People start to speed up. And so packs start to disintegrate. And you start to, especially where I'll be in the paces we're going, I know it won't be as populated like being in the sub 3 group, which tends to be pretty populated in major marathons. So the goal is to maintain near that 6 flat pace again through that section. So really the goal throughout the whole race is to stay at 6 flat mile pace, 3:43 per K. And once I get through 20, I'll evaluate how I feel. So if I'm able to get to 20 on that pace, see how I feel. If I feel good, like I did last year, I'll start to slowly accelerate into mile 21, 22, like I did last year in Chicago. And if I can hold 5:55 to 6 mile pace, just a bit faster than what I've been running the whole race, I'll try to maintain that through mile 24. And if I still have gas in the tank, I'll start to step on it through the last 1.5 miles. Rely on the crowd support coming back, because as you come up Michigan on that last south stretch, the crowds get crazy again, and then you can smell the finish line. It's so close. At that point, it feels like you can just run off of your brain instead of your body, just forcing yourself to move your legs. At least that's how I've felt at the end of successful marathons. So now let me reiterate, let me be very clear. I'm not looking to race this marathon safely in regards to my time. That was for last year, my sub 3. I wanted to make sure I got under that 3-hour mark. I honestly think I was capable of like a 254 or 253 that day, even though I ran a 257. But I wanted to make sure I went under 3 hours to get that psychological boost, to know that I could do it. And I also wanted to guarantee that I went under 250 in the spring with Carmel. And so I raced that race that way. I'm not as tied to 242. I know I can go well below that. I think I can go well below that. I don't know that. I guess that's what we're figuring out here. I just really want to toe the line with what is possible for me in a week. And as I approach my mid-30s, I'm 32 right now, as I approach 33, 34, 35, I just don't want to look back at these races and these years and wonder what could have been. You know, we usually only get 2 chances at a marathon a year, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And I just truly want to leave it all out there and not race stupid, but race hard. I just want to take the last part of this video to thank everyone here who's been watching this series, who have been following me on Instagram and commenting here and on Instagram and anywhere on the internet, encouraging me in this process. The support has like truly been unbelievable. I never thought this channel would explode in the way it has. So I just wanted to pause and say thank you. None of what I'm doing here would be possible without you watching it and just your investment in my story and who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish. The support literally like feels tangible. I'll carry that support with me in my head the whole race. I can promise you that. But I also recognize that some people will be inclined to say that this plan is too aggressive, and I respect that. You could totally believe that. That's totally fine. I've come to grips with what I want to do and how much I want to challenge myself in this race, and maybe it is too aggressive, but the truth is we won't know if it's too aggressive unless I actually go for it and see. So let's go for it.